Hello, this is the front desk.
Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the Crack and Backs podcast with your hosts, Dr. Terry Wyman and Dr. Spencer Barron. How you doing today, guys?
Very good.
Awesome. Joining us today is a pioneer for the chiropractic world. His name's Dr. Jan Corwin, and Dr. Jan here has done everything in the past 40 years for chiropractic, from teaching an innumerate amount of lectures to chiropractic students everywhere, teaching, helping out, and he was also the first chiropractor to join an Olympic team abroad in 1988 to Seoul, Korea. How you doing today this morning?
Good.
Jan, it's an honor to have you. Before we really get going, I told Spencer before the broadcast, I haven't ever told you this, but you're my first mentor, and you're the first guy I ever looked up to. And it was my 30th year in practice last year, and you were one of the first pioneers. And when I first met you at the ACA conference, you didn't really know who I was, but you were like one of the guys I go, I want to be that guy. And I've never had a chance to tell you that and advance our lives 30 years later, and to have a podcast where we're trying to give to students and we're trying to help other students, give them tools to go into their career and make our career better. It's such an honor for me to have the guy that got my career when I was a student going on our podcast. So I never had a chance to tell you that, but you were a huge influence on my life. And for those students coming out, don't realize who you are, and they hear all the other guys, but you're the first chiropractor for the ACA Sports Council, and the next episode we have the 2021 Sports Council Doctor of the Year, but you're the first one, and you started everything. So it's an honor for me to have you on our podcast, and I just wanted to get that out.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. It's an honor for me to be here. And actually, it's really wild. I do remember meeting you like 30 something years ago at a sports council convention, because I remember you came up to me and I was obviously busy, doing all the things that we were kind of like really trying to push forward at the time. And you kind of came up and made a point. I do remember that. And I remember saying, oh, this young guy, he's going to be good one day. He's going to be one of the next leaders. And obviously you've surpassed everything that I started. You have taken it to the next level. So it's great to be able to share the microphone with you. But it's great. I followed you over the last 30 years, and we need 100 guys more like you and Spencer, and the chiropractic prevention would be unlimited, So,
well, Jan, I have to recognize you for something, and that is you were the one who got the chiropractors in on that NFL, the union list. And I'll never you and what was the other the football the football players?
Dave Megacy.
Gosh,
from
yes,
not from the Raiders, from Denver Broncos, I think, but he played at Syracuse in college. Yeah. I remember he was a Raider. I forget exactly. He's probably gonna be mad at me. I hope he's still alive. He ended up being a patient of mine, and he was a patient of mine. And then we hit it off, and he was obviously had been retired and having all the injuries that a retired NFL guy has from the 70s and the 80s. And then I started talking to him, and I had just gotten back from the Olympics and everything. And I said, it's crazy. All these Olympians are the same age as your, NFL guys in their young 20s. And I said, why do they need it and the NFL guys don't? I said, that makes no sense to me. So I started talking about it. He started listening, and he goes, yeah, you're making a lot of sense. And then we took it from there, and he started pushing it to his boss, and then I started talking, I made a lot of presentations to them, and and then eventually we had that big meeting in Florida where we started interviewing chiropractors to get with each team. Yeah. And then it's progressed to now where all the teams I think have at least one or two chiropractors. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I
It
mean,
was
I love
you.
seeing that.
Well, actually, to be
Yeah.
really clear, it set the pace because that was you created the opportunity for a list of chiropractors to be for the players' union to recognize on each team. So work comp
Right.
cases would go to them and referrals. And then all of a sudden it started carrying over into having a chiropractor as a physician for the team, as part of the athletic training staff.
Right.
And that was
Right. And I was doing that with the Raiders at the time, way back when. And I did that for about 5 years. I was working with the Raiders, and that was kind of simultaneously while I was doing that with the NFLPA.
yeah.
But I wasn't getting paid then. I was just doing it because I had became close to a couple of the players, and they would say, "Come on over to come to the training camp, come to practice," and I would do that just because I knew that's how back then that's how we all got our ins by starting off like that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the first time I had done that. So I did that with the Raiders and the Oakland A's, and I was treating people, and then I knew then that was definitely something that they liked.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
so
It
I
set the
started
pace.
promoting it as much as I could. Yeah, set the pace.
You probably
And what
don't
I got,
realize the repercussions from some one thing that you might do and how it just carries over and
Yep.
unfolds into what 30 years from now from then.
well,
And so it's
I
pretty
always
cool.
it used to frustrate me as a sports chiropractor and somebody who was totally into it, why it wasn't absorbed by all the teams that it should have been absorbed by. Every professional team, every
Yeah.
college team, and it
Yeah.
used to make me crazy. It was one of those things that kept me up at night, and so I just said, all right, I'm going to do what I can to make this all happen.
Well, you
So
did.
so that was kind of my thing. And even getting with the Olympic team, that was a total fluke because I didn't know anything about it or anybody. And
Oh my God.
I just applied. I just said, you know what? They should have a chiropractor. So I wrote a note to the Olympic Committee and sent in my application.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
no
I didn't know
kidding.
anybody.
Is that
It was like
That's incredible.
four
Oh
of us
my God.
sent it in, and then all of a sudden, like a year or two later, I got a letter inviting me to go to the Olympic Training Center.
oh my God, no. I didn't know that's how that happened.
Oh, I had no idea.
Nobody, I didn't know anything, and I think it was probably it was like 19. Because I got invited to go to the training center in '86, and simultaneously, I didn't realize in 1984 is when they started kind of exploring, having chiropractors work with the athletes and everything. And I didn't know anybody at that point because, there was no social media then. The
Right.
only thing you did is you went to a convention and you kind of met one of you guys and somebody said, "Oh, did you hear?"
Yeah.
And that was the level of communication. Just so I just said, you know what? I'm going to do that. So I
Wow.
applied. And I went through it, and Tommy Hyde, I know,
Yeah.
he had
Yeah.
he was in there, but I didn't know who he was. And Dan Check was in there, and nobody knew each other because
No.
I was in California, he was
Right.
in another part of the country, Florida and stuff. So anyway, I did it. I went through the program never knowing that I don't know what's going to happen until finally I found out I got picked. And the thing that made me the most happy about it is because it was the first time that they were now going to take a chiropractor overseas. So it wasn't like show up on Tuesday and you can
Yeah.
help us out. It was I knew they had to go through a procedure. I had to get a pet, I had to get okayed. They had to give me a uniform. They had to buy me a plane ticket. It was serious.
Yeah.
It was
Wow.
that's what made me feel the best about it. That not because I got to go wherever I was going, but that they really had to put an effort into it.
Yeah.
And I was on an official list because I had a seat on the airplane. I had all that stuff.
Not
So
in
that
the
was
back of
really
the
cool.
bus or anything
Actually,
like that, or in the luggage.
I have my thing here, my badge.
Yeah, good thing you're showing us because we don't believe you, actually, Oh, there it is.
So the
Oh my
Olympic
God.
Who's
had a
that picture?
process of badge.
Is that a picture of
That's
you?
me. Yeah,
Oh
that
my God.
Wow.
That's
That's great.
crazy. I don't even know if I have mine. That's incredible.
I know. Well, anyway, so I somehow saved it, and so that is my official badge that you wore around your neck for security.
Right.
Wow.
So
That's
that made me feel like, you know what,
Yeah.
that I was definitely official. You know,
That's
I
so
never heard that story. That is incredible. And you know what? What's cool about that story is some of that is still relevant today. Sometimes just a letter, just reaching out, even though you don't know, just sometimes putting a letter out there and saying, "Hey, would you? Is this available or whatever?" I think that's a good lesson for anybody. Everybody wants to wait to be invited, and sometimes it's nice to just reach out there and say, is this possible?" So
right,
good luck.
right. Right. So what happened was is that I was used to that because being in Northern California, I being in Northern California, I tried to get in with the University of California at Berkeley because that was a big time, sports
Ooh, yeah.
program.
Oh yeah.
That's how I got into working with them. I went over and just, introduced myself and got turned down a couple of times. And I kind of, every year I kind of did it until one there finally was a team, doctor or athletic director that said, all right, we'll give it a try, you know.
Hmm.
So I was used to being turned down. I had
Yeah.
not, that was not going to upset me. So I got turned down by the Olympic Committee. It was like, okay, whatever, you know.
Right.
So I kept on doing that. I tried to open as many doors as I could, knowing that I, could have possibly be turned down.
How did
Wow.
you get started with chiropractic? What did you always want to be one, or was this something that
No,
somebody just passed by you?
no, I was already like, pretty much halfway through college, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and uh, and then I didn't. By the time I was a junior and senior in college, I was playing sports and I was getting hurt, so I was totally interested in that, and so I got hurt a couple of times, and then I just didn't. Back then in this literally in the '60s and '70s when I was competing, the trainers were not of the quality that they are now. So you were on your own. So I used to like to read about it, and then I said, I really like reading this stuff. So I started preparing to apply to medical school because I didn't even know, I'd never heard the word chiropractic.
Hmm.
So I was in the process of applying to medical school, and one day I met a chiropractor. Oh, this is what happened. I was working, I was, doing the thing that you do. I kind of got a job working in an emergency room, I think after my junior or senior year in college, and I just was kind of like being an orderly, basically, but just to kind of see what it was like. And I loved it. So I got friendly with some of the doctors there. One of the doctors said, I was telling him I wanted to apply to medical school, and back in the early 1970s, it was like really hard to get into if you lived in New Jersey, and because there was only one medical school, so they said it's really hard to get into a medical school from New Jersey because it was really tough competition. And I wasn't the smartest guy in the class, but I was definitely average. So I said, "All right, what else would you recommend?" He goes, "You should check out osteopathic and chiropractic." So I
Huh.
said, "Oh, I had never heard of those." And this is one of the emergency room doctors said that to me. So
Wow.
I said, "Never heard of those." So I went home and kind of started looking it up. And there wasn't any osteopaths in town, but there was a chiropractor in the next town. So I went and knocked on his door, and he was really nice. And I went in and I started talking to him, and I said, "Oh, I'm looking into going to chiropractic school." And he recommended me to go to National because that's where he went, you know. And so I explored that, and then he was into treating some athletes, and I thought that, wow, this is really cool. I said, this
Hmm.
is exactly what I want to do. So I applied. I was applying to like medical school, osteopathic school, and chiropractic school. I got into chiropractic right school first, and I said, all right, that's what I'm supposed to do, and I went right away. You know,
Wow.
So
yeah.
the best part of the
I had
story,
never been treated. I had never been treated. I was one of those weirdos that went to chiropractic school, had never been to a chiropractor.
Wow.
I mean, I just talked to this guy a couple of times. And that was it. I had no naive I was. I was coming from a complete medical background. Just to show you this is really bizarre. My father had gotten hurt the year before. He was going to see a chiropractor somehow. I was away at college. I came home, and then I started working in this emergency room. And my father had hurt his neck, and I made him stop going to the chiropractor. I said, "You can't do that. You got to go see an orthopedist." I mean, so
Oh my God.
that's how little I knew about chiropractic.
Yeah.
Isn't that bizarre? I mean, we're talking like 1972, so nobody knew, And anyway, that I think that's ironic.
It is
So
ironic. When was the first time you got adjusted?
Probably at school. Probably at school. I went to the clinic to check it out.
Oh, God.
That's what happened. In my first semester, and I said, I better go get this.
I remember trying to sell it.
Right.
Before I tried. It's just like the whole concept. I love the stuff that this chiropractor had explained to me.
Oh.
That's funny.
And then what really convinced me, I'll tell you a quick story. So I'm in my first semester of chiropractic school, and we're playing flag football out, in the field there and stuff like that. And I'm playing flag football, and I took a shot to the jaw, by accident. Somebody hit me, and I was in excruciating pain. I didn't know it yet, but I had like done something to my TMJ. Meanwhile, a couple of guys go, "Oh my God, I think you broke your jaw. We're going to go to the emergency room." So they take me to the emergency room because I was in a lot of pain, and then they're gonna at the emergency room. They literally examined me and they said, "Well, we think you broke your jaw. We're gonna wire your jaw."
Holy
And I said, "Time out." I said, I can't do that. I don't have any money. I'm a student. I'm not going to do that. So I call up one of the guys that brought me there, and I said, "You got to come and get me. I have to go see somebody else." So the guy goes, "Well, why don't I take you back to the clinic?" Like, I don't know why they didn't bring me there first, because I was playing with a bunch of freshmen. They didn't know any better. We all had been at school like 2 weeks. They knew anything. So they bring me back to the clinic, and the guy goes in. He goes, "Oh my God, you're dislocated, you're subluxated, your TMJ." Adjust me, and I was like perfectly fine.
Oh my God.
From being in the emergency room, and after that was like one of my first adjustments.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my God, this is the greatest thing in the world." I went from 10 minutes ago I would have had my jaw wired to now I'm like nothing ever happened. So that was one of my first adjustments.
That's very, very cool.
So I was beyond sold after that. You didn't have to say a thing. That was it. Crazy. And I was in school 2 weeks. I had been in school like 2 weeks or so. And I just happened to play football with a bunch of guys.
Crazy.
So
Crazy,
Jan,
right?
Crazy.
so I don't
Anyway.
know. Terry accidentally. Well, I don't know if he accidentally, but he told me that you were actually originally on the East Coast, because I don't know if you realize, but there's an East-West Coast thing. Is that where you started?
Well, no, I went to high school and college in New Jersey because that's
Oh,
where
yeah.
I lived here in northern New Jersey, and then I went to chiropractic school in Chicago. Okay, went to chiropractic school in Chicago, and I said I ain't going back to the East Coast. I hated living there and stuff, so I went
You just
right
ruined it.
to
Okay.
California. And I went right to California, and I was friends with one or two guys that had graduated ahead of me, and they were practicing in San Francisco. So I went to go see them, and I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about practicing out here." And they said, "Why don't you go to Oakland? We don't know anybody in Oakland." And I said, "Okay." So I went over to Oakland, and I decided to go set up shop in Oakland. I was very not. I don't want to call myself cocky, but I just was totally confident that I knew what I was doing when I graduated. So I went to the area in Oakland where there was a big medical group. There was like a big medical center, like this, like 4 or 5 block area, and there was no chiropractors in that thing.
Wow.
So that's where I decided I'm going to open up. That's where, and I'm going to get all my referrals from the MDs. That's what I
That's
decided.
great.
Wow.
And that's what I did. So I was the only chiropractor. There was like 450 MDs in this 2 hospitals.
Oh my
So
God.
So I opened up my office there, and it wasn't easy because a lot of places that I went to go rent, when I would say, rent for some, they wouldn't rent to me because I was a chiropractor.
Wow.
Wow.
So it started. I knew right from the beginning life was not going to be easy, as compared to what I thought it was going to be. So, I mean, I couldn't believe they would not take my rent. So
Yeah.
finally, I found somebody who said, okay, I don't care what you are. You can come rent space in this office building. So I did. And I ended up, as I got bigger, I just moved around the corner to a bigger building. And I was there for my entire career.
Wow, what a barn burner! I mean, what a pioneer!
Yeah,
That's
so I
just
knew from the beginning, yeah, that's what you had to do. You had to because nobody at that, in the early 1970s, I'm talking mid 1970s here, chiropractic was still a dirty word,
Yeah.
you know. And I remember I would go to a family wedding or a bar mitzvah or something, and they would say, "What are you doing?" And I would say, I went to chiropractic school and became a chiropractor. I go, what's that? Why'd you do that? And then it was weird. Then 20 years later, I would go back and everybody go, "Oh, Jan, I have a chiropractor. I love my chiropractor." It was so funny.
wow.
Everybody at a wedding or a bar mitzvah or something,
Right.
everybody was a chiropractor.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, that's funny.
Hey, Jan, I'm going to throw my partner a bone, but you and I can't believe I'm going to throw him this compliment, but you worked in the Northern California your whole career. Why did you move back to the East Coast?
I was gonna bring that up.
I'm embarrassed, but every time somebody asks me, "Why did you move from California to northern New Jersey?" thinking that, so I had a hard time trying to explain it. So what happened was, I had my career in California. My kids grew up in Northern California, and both of my daughters ended up becoming superstar swimmer, water polo players.
Wow.
Okay, and I was really into that. As a matter of fact, I brought them down to Terry Schroeder's water polo camp there at Pepperdine County because, once I had met Terry at the Olympics, I became friendly with him.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah, he was the captain in 1988.
Yeah,
I had no idea again who he was until I met him. But anyway, so my kids both got into it, and they became high school All-Americans. So they got recruited all over the country, and they ended up going to University of Maryland.
Oh,
okay,
no
so they
kidding.
went to Maryland. Yeah, I used to fly out there to go to the games and and the swim meets and everything, and it was killing me. And then after they graduated, and they both said, we're going to stay on the East Coast. It's a nice change. So I said, "Oh, really?" After I, so
the key word is nice. A nice change. Yeah, thanks.
Right.
No, what I'm hearing is he got suckered into going back, and he's had to settle in.
So, I don't want to say
it's his kids.
Burnt out. I was getting. I after it was 29, 30 years, and I was like, you know what? I'm really tired. So I said, you know what? And my wife was from New Jersey, and her mother wasn't doing great, and she goes, if you move back there, I'd be happy to do it also. And I said, you know what? I want to go back and be close to my kids. My wife wanted to go be back close to her mother and family. And I said, all right, you know what? I have these two guys who are working for me. And they said, you know what? We'll buy your practice. And I said, okay. And I just did it. And I was kind of tired, I really, the last 5 or 6 or 7 years, I was just exhausted after just running around so much, doing all the things I was doing with the sports council and the Raiders, and and I was just exhausted. So anyway, I did that, and I moved back to New Jersey. That was my entire science behind doing that. So I moved back. The girls stayed for 6 or 7 years, and then after 6 or 7 winters, they said, "Dad, this sucks."
You had to throw that last line in there.
They went back to California. So now, anytime I want to see them, I have to go to California or they come.
Lance, can you cut that part out by any chance? Can you just cut that last part out?
One of my daughters has 2 grandchildren, so I literally fly back there. And all the people. So when I moved back to New Jersey,
This is your own battle,
I met
Spencer.
a lot of new people. Nobody that I had known before. And they would say, "Why would you ever move back here from California?"
It just keeps getting worse. It just keeps getting worse.
I don't have to say a thing.
Hey, Lance, is the podcast over yet? By any chance?
I said this is your own battle now.
I think that California is much more open and is not so medically traditional, not so medically traditional as New Jersey and New York area. So many people here are tied into the New Jersey, New York medical community. It's unbelievable.
Loser.
Jan, you're easily my favorite guest so far.
Not mine.
Anyway,
I think we better get Tom Hyde on for the next podcast.
I miss California.
He's pure East Coast. Tom Hyde.
I have a nice house here in New Jersey now, and I really enjoy
Yeah.
it.
Jan, I love you. That's all I can say is,
Man, my whole plan backfired.
I'm sorry, you didn't trust me.
Oh my God, I thought you were still in New Jersey. Oh my God.
I love it.
Wait.
I love when a great plan comes.
Wait, we could make a comeback here. Jan, when you approach the chiropractic table to adjust, do you mainly adjust from the left side or the right side?
I think I do it from the left side.
All right. Yeah.
There it is. Okay. Terry's a right side guy. I'm a left side. I'm like in tears laughing. All right.
I bought a chiropractic table here in my house, so I love that. I went out at the Olympics, and I enjoy using that for friends and family and stuff.
Jeez, man, that just took a turn for the worse for me.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
Next question.
That was great. So now you're teaching, right? Now, what are you teaching at the university? And tell me about that.
So really interesting too. So I didn't know any chiropractors who were teaching at a classic college. So once again, I was totally used to getting turned down. I said, you know what? I think I came back to New Jersey. I took like a couple of months off, and then I said, well, I'm not going to retire. I need to do stuff. So I said, you know what? I wouldn't mind teaching. I really was into anatomy and physiology, and sports medicine and stuff. The closest chiropractic college was Bridgeport, and I was not going to drive an hour and a half each way to go there. So I just started applying to some of the colleges within like a 20-minute drive of my house. And I got interviews for a couple of them, and I got hired. So I teach at Montclair State University, which is a New Jersey college, New Jersey State College, and Passaic Community College, which is also a New Jersey State Community College. And I've been doing that, and I teach anatomy and physiology. And
that's great.
Mostly the pre-nursing students and exercise physiology students. And I'm the only chiropractor on the staff that I am aware of at both schools, but it works out fine. I kind of got in, and they seem to like me. The kids like me, and I enjoy doing it. So I've been doing it now for about 10 or 12 years.
Oh, wow.
About 12 years,
Does the chiropractic conversation come up in class?
Oh yeah, well I expose them to it, like when we do the anatomy, the axial skeleton, when we do the spine. Oh yeah, I And I tell them, I explain what chiropractors do and what orthopedists do, and I have them palpate their atlas and their
Yeah.
axis and
That's awesome.
and yeah, I teach them all that, and I tell them, I teach them with, how discs affected. Oh yeah, I go into it so they are more than aware of what's going on. So
That's
I
great.
try and get them educated. I never learned any of that in college.
No, that's great. What
Yeah.
are you still involved with the ACA? Do you still do some stuff with them?
Well, with the sports council, I'm still a dues-paying member of the sports council, and he's got my
Yeah,
19 probably
I see
in
that.
force shirt.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
But oh yeah, I know. I mean, I still do stuff. I go to meetings every once in a while, when I can. And I just did the virtual one like that happened in October. So I'm still a dues paying member. I'm gonna still stay on it because that was my baby back then. You
Yeah.
know,
Absolutely.
so I was on the board there for about 10 or 12 years. So I really appreciate the sports council, and you know, and I plan on just continuing to do that. What I did
If
finally do though, I psychologically couldn't give up my license though, my California license. So I had been paying for that. And during COVID, what happened was somehow maybe I was sick when they came to renew it and I somehow missed the payment, my
ouch.
last my
Hmm.
so I do not have my California license anymore, sadly enough. But
Uh-huh.
you know,
But can't you? I mean, everything seems to be kind of put on hold on from 2020. Is that something you can appeal?
I can, but I doubt that I'm going to go back into practice, in my 70s.
Fair enough. That's fair. That's fair.
So I just said, you know what? I don't really need to prove that I was, with my license anymore. So, you know, so I, I'm not paying the $350 a year to renew it all the time.
All right, so here's a question for you. If you were president of the ACA Sports Council today, what direction would you take it? Would there be
Hmm.
something that you would do that's different?
That's good.
I mean, one of the things that I don't know if I would do anything different. I mean, everything they're doing is kind of like spot on, but I would just be very aggressive on just trying to incorporate as many new members as possible. It's kind of, and I understand exactly what happened when managed care hit in the 90s. The ACA Sports Council took a hit like all the other councils because chiropractors started making so much less money because there was less exposure to patients and everything. And everything started to go negative, and had nothing to do with the sports council. It just had to do with the times that existed in the United States with insurance and chiropractic,
But
and just continue to work to build that back up.
Hmm.
well, everything has
And one of the other
value.
things that I would-
How would you place value on the ACA Sports Council if you were talking to a student? Because, a lot of them have never heard of the ACA Sports Council, and everything has value.
oh,
What would you do to create that
right.
value for them?
Or the value that I would instill upon them is that it's a great way to meet other chiropractors like yourselves and all the other people that you guys interview to see what they're really doing and capable of doing and how they've done it. Because those are the things that I think are just lacking. I mean, when I was at National in the early 70s, there wasn't anybody or there wasn't a whole lot of people to look up to. There was one or two, but it was hard to get a hold of them. But nowadays, with social media and with all the things that we're exposed to, it's so much easier to learn from other people's successes and failures that you can investigate that. Probably the one of the biggest things that I would like to do if I was running the sports council today is to try and get all the different sports groups that are out there and get them all under one umbrella. That was always my goal way back when, not for the power of it, but just to be a unified, voice in sports. So right now, I know there's a definitely a few different groups out there, that all are in one umbrella. And I know everybody likes to be autonomous, and I know it's a really hard thing to do, but that would be one of my goals to do it. Just to get it all under one group and just to have, instead of having 250 people in the sports council, have 2,500 people or 4,500 people that are all, because that's how many people are really doing sports chiropractic out there. I'm sure there's at least 5,000 that are doing it and probably doing it pretty successfully, and everybody's got a good story. So that's what I would try and do. It's just, that was always one of my goals, you know. So I even was instrumental in with the rodeo. Remember when the professional started? I tried to get them. Those I spoke at a couple of rodeo conventions, and obviously I had no experience in it, but I was just doing it from the sports chiropractic perspective. Try and get them under the sports council. So I was really aggressive in doing all that back then, and it was hard because there was no internet back then, so everything was by fax or literally physically going there. So I was traveling like crazy, talking to people, and you know, I wasn't making a lot of money, but that wasn't my goal. I was just giving up my time to do it and that's where I guess got tired of doing all that after a while because I wasn't making any money doing it. So but anyway, I'm glad I did it. I don't regret it for a minute, and I wouldn't change anything. So that's good.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was different. It was difficult when the ACPSP broke off and became an educational body, and then the ACA wasn't really sure other than to try to place chiropractors in sporting events, and it's
Yeah, I
I
know.
agree.
We were doing everything we could to retain members, excite members, get members involved, and get people right out of school. And it was an effort because it was so hard to do it. You couldn't communicate. You can now on Facebook and all the LinkedIn and all the things that you can communicate on. That we had no access to. I remember just like living by the fax machine. Going at 9,600 bits per minute. With the first two. Now we can download millions of them.
Yeah.
So, all the younger people who would have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right? Like Mr. Lance, you go, what are these guys talking about?
I don't even think Lance knows what a pager is. A pager. Do you remember a pager?
I'm not 7. I know what a pager is.
We're not picking. But and I know, and the people that came before us even had it harder than us. So I understand every generation should get easier, and it definitely has been. And I'm glad it's gotten better. And it makes me so happy and proud to see how great all the chiropractors are doing. And I see stuff online, whether it's on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever it is. When I see how great they're doing, it's like, I'm so happy.
Yeah.
And the education of these new chiropractors is fantastic.
Right, it's great. It's super.
It's
I know
unbelievable.
it is. It's great, and I'm all for it. You can never. I always I just tell my students now in college, and and I used to tell other chiropractors that were starting out. Listen, you can never be too smart, and you can never be too good, and there's always somebody better.
Yeah.
So that's what always pushed me to strive. And as soon as I got out there, I started seeing everybody that was better and smarter. So as I expanded my network, and I was happy to see it. I met all you guys, and everybody was smarter and better. So I was happy I was in a good crowd. I'll tell you an interesting thing. One of the things when I was in practice in Oakland, and I was the first one in, like I said, that big medical center.
Yeah.
Anytime some other chiropractor came up and said, I want to open up, in this, do what you're doing. And I used to tell them this, and I was serious. I said, listen, you are more than welcome to open up next door, down the street, in the medical center. But here's the deal. You got to be better than me. And they would look at me. Why would you want me better? I said, because in case people get mixed up about going to the chiropractor, I don't want them to ever think, that they're going to a bad one. I said,
wow.
if you're better than me and smarter than me,
That's
I said,
impressive.
feel free to open up next door, because if they make a mistake and come to me by accident, it's okay. But if you're going to be forced, you can't ruin my reputation.
That's great.
That's what I used to tell them.
That's the pearl right there. That's the pearl.
There it is.
We were just about to wrap it up, Jan, and I thought to myself, what could you contribute to end this conversation? And that was probably the key right there. Yeah.
Good.
Is there anything else that you haven't mentioned that you want to share before we end?
Well, I love that I'm a chiropractor. I love that that I was a chiropractor practicing. I miss that, now that I'm not practicing as a chiropractor, but I still feel engaged because
Yeah.
I go to Phil Santiago all the time, who
Oh,
practices
love that
like,
guy.
yeah, like 15 miles from here. So we go and treat each other all the time, and that's great.
Yeah.
As a matter of I'm due for an adjustment. He calls me up. He goes, Jan, I need an adjustment quick. You got to get over here. So and vice versa. So I still get treated. I still get adjusted. I adjust my family all the time, on my table upstairs. And I had a great run. I loved it, and all the things that I did, I'm like really proud of. I'm really happy with, and I feel great that everybody that's followed, in me and hearing what you guys had to say makes me totally, happy.
Oh, that's great.
Great to
It
hear, Jan.
encourages me to continue, and I hope I can still stimulate people to
yeah.
become great chiropractors.
Oh, you have. And tell Phil I said hi, please.
Yeah,
and
same.
I'd love to have him on the cast as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And if you ever want to adjust in California again, you have a place you can come anytime.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. But
Terry,
thank you guys very much for doing what you do.
Terry, you sure you want Phil on? Because he is a major league East Coast guy.
I'm okay with that. After what Jan said today, I'm good for the next couple of weeks. You know what, Jan? We're going to close on that. And we just want to say we love you and thank you so much for being a
love you
door.
guys. You guys have been
You
great.
broke down so many doors and made it easier for us, and hopefully our listeners. This podcast makes it easier for the next generation, and we just want to say thank you for everything you did for the profession.
Good.
So I'm
Thank you.
good.
I appreciate it.
Thanks,
you guys.
Jan. Appreciate
Continue
it.
to pray for me.
All right, my man.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. You can find announcements and more on our Instagram at the Crackin' Backs Podcast. Give us a follow and let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. Tune in every Monday and Wednesday for a new episode at 7 a.m. CST. See you next time.